Thanks and praise, dissidents. A lot of energy coming forward, a lot of positive energy coming forward. When the world falls apart, the mystic begins to dance. I tell you what, that is the way of things. I have a short list of things I want to share today, beginning with a wonderful announcement. Slick Dissidents PayPal is prepared to receive. I finally hooked up the PayPal onto my YouTube channel, so down below not only is Cash App available, but I am now diversified. The subject today will have a great deal to do with the shadow of the Dark Mother. And I've done a lot of work on Medusa and the Perseus myth. And by studying the Perseus myth, I realized that Medusa was very much she was much more innocent than people think. And in fact, Perseus, when he realizes that he's just a mercenary in this situation and that that she was pregnant, it casts a shadow on his persona, and he becomes less noble because of it. So yeah, the Dark Mother and the sullying of the divine feminine, and the tragedy of the fact that the Rockefellers, drew the feminine out of the sanctuary of the private and lured her into the public. With the CIA op and the Gloria Steinem operation, drawing women to the front lines of the military. I just want to kind of buzz on that, not from my perspective. This is not personal to me. But the language around it in the zeitgeist right now, it has actual analog terms and symbols that I just want to share for everybody, so we can maybe consider how the divine feminine is being put in the crosshairs in a dangerous way. But before I get to that, I want to share something I learned about Karl Murex, who is a reformer, a perfectionist, a number one personality type with the shadow of wrath, whose infernal name in the Enneagram, wrath, is Satan. And I just learned that Karl Murex wrote his dissertation on the difference between Epicurus, number 7 on the Enneagram, is the Epicure, and its primordial essence is the guy who it is named after, Epicurus. And then his other topic of his dissertation was Democritus. His essence is stationed in between Epicureanism and Democritus, the comedian of Thalia, the tragedy. And Democritus is named the mocker. That's it, one of his monikers, one of his epithets is the mocker. And even atomism is also one of the essences of the individual number 4. The word atom means unremovable, not uncuttable, not to be divided. Undivisible. This is individual. This is basically atomism. That's kind of the thing about a comedian, is they think that how would I say that? They can't be cut. They are impervious to being the butt of any joke. They have such a good sense of humor that you can't cut them. That's to be good humored, is to be have a good Thalia essence. To be a good comedian is to be able to be the butt of a joke and not let it harm you whatsoever. It just bounces right off you. It's the thickest skin there is to be a spiritual atomist, Very fascinating. So Democritus, in the symposium, this is Thalia, the muse of Comédie, and Comed in reverse is Democ. And that was Aristophanes in the symposium, and his eulogy was talking about cutting humans in half. And so they were four-legged and four-armed, rolling around. He cut them in half and put their genitals on the other side so that they were always humping. And then he threatens to, and he gives himself praise for the stroke of genius. But then he has Apollo trim up the edges and leave the belly button as a reminder that he might cut you again. He might come and divide them again if they piss him off one more time. And then they'd have to be hopping around on one leg instead. All right, yeah, so Democritus, atomism, all those things are down here related to this number 4. And the other branch of his focus was on Epicurus, which was super dangerous. That's a super dangerous goal for a number 1 to associate with the number 7. There's something of an integration and disintegration in the language of the Enneagram that Karl Marx was suffering from. His ideological positioning was totally in a very volatile. He was in a volatile associative space. And the principle of the general will actually runs between the 4 and the 1. There's something of the movement of the heptad in the Enneagram. The gap of the give and the take between the 4 and the 1 was actually a term that Hitler had a distinct philosophy on. And it has to do with the presumption that humans are robots, pretty much. But I just wanted to point out that another aspect of his biography locks Karl Marx into this position because of his orientation on Epicurus and Democritus. And this is also a sacred harmonic. The 417, the 714 is part of the frequency. It's a harmonic frequency, so it's so fascinating. Okay, just wanted to kind of put that on the record. Maybe I might be a footnote in the book that Slick might eventually write someday, maybe. All right. And it's a soft transition from Karl Marx to, I want to kind of give an example of, I said I was going to disavow certain words from my lexicon. And I think one really powerful term or phrase that is played out at this point, it's totally lost its power. Cultural Marxism. I heard somebody give the recommendation that we use the term cultural Thatcherism, as in Margaret Thatcher. And I was like, ooh, that cuts. That's got edge. That still has edge. That needs to be wielded around a bit. So I looked into Margaret Thatcher, and she's totally in this. Here we go. She's totally in the art card. If you go read Margaret Thatcher's biography, she was, if you just read her biography and just keep this card in mind. She had 2 kids. She was into the alchemy society or some sort of like metallurgy, tampering with the value of money, basically society. And she's very two-faced. Her hair has the little coilies on the side. Margaret Thatcher is a great fit for this card. She's the two-faced thing is it's also gender. One much of a woman at all. Notoriously not very feminine at all. This card is also Lady Frida Harris herself, but a strange and creepy echo. If I'm right, if this is Margaret Thatcher, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a reanimated egregore of the Mystery Machine. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a living mystery machine. The name is an anagram, but it's taken some schizophrenic liberties. Uh, I think you need extra R's. Marjorie Taylor Greene has like 3 R's, but Mystery Machine only has one. Yeah, only has one. But all the phonetics are there to unpack into Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I like Marjorie Taylor Greene as a character on the fictional stage, and I am horrified at Margaret Thatcher and what the end result of her works were. So the anocathode of Margaret Thatcher and Marjorie Taylor Greene is some kind of mantle being passed around in the think tanks, that we may never get to the bottom of the mystery, but it's interesting that we can see their signs and signals going transgenerationally. So the concept of not using cultural Marxism and calling it cultural Thatcherism, I think it puts the spotlight on people's research where they should be looking, not too much to Marx, but more so to that number 3 personality. She's an achiever with a shadow of deceit. That is the essence of Margaret Thatcher in a major way. It's amazing how potent she is as an egregore of the number 3 personality type. It's amazing. And there is a lot of musical aspect to that. You know, she played the press like Mozart. She cracked the whip rather handedly. But that is not to say that the Mystery Machine is evil. None of this necessarily puts evilness on any of the symbols themselves. They are just very simply, it does banalize the associations. It does kind of banalize it, which is to say it's writing on our passivity that we recognize it subconsciously. That's what I'm saying. It's in the subconscious. All right. So Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Margaret Thatcher naked on a cold day is not a very enjoyable, comforting subject. But I just wanted to put cultural Thatcherism on everybody's radar. It's worth looking into. And now there's a concept called the longhouse. And I recommend people look into what the longhouse is about. It's a buzzword. It's been a buzzword. I'm late to the party, as always, from the Bronze Age mindset, which I'll try to get these graphics. The Bronze Age mindset, the cover art is this card here. And he uses a trigger term to try to stir the shit pot, like that dude loves to do, that Michael Aquino military industrial asset he loves to do. That whole Bronze Age mindset is just a military recruiting manual. It's a glorified military recruiting manual to the max. But yeah, I'll bring that forward, and then I'll bring the iceberg slim graphic forward. And you can see how these mantles are put onto the cover art of really, really mind-altering tomes. And one of the trigger terms that our boy, what's his name, a Bronze Age pervert, he re-injected the longhouse into the narrative. And so the longhouse is right here on this card, on her toes. And a fascinating thing about what I see in this graphic, along with a great many things, this is in the southern hemisphere. It's the Ara Altair and Indus and the Pavo and the Telescopium and the Microscopium, MIC, the military industrial complex. They love to make you feel small, like you're being seen through the peephole. And just by virtue of being seen, you are reduced 10,000-fold. Another strange thing about this graphic of the building here is if you ever look up the theory that your nationality or your heritage is determined by the shape of your toes, I definitely see something weird. I don't know why, because it's by her feet. And it's very placental. It's extremely placental, this card. And it has the word Tau, which is 400 and apparently means foot. So the toes are aspect of the glyph of the card. So yeah, I think that's fascinating that people say the shape of your toes tells you what nationality you come from. But I'm going to cut here so I can have optimal graphics, and I'll be right back, and we'll get into what the longhouse meant in its relationship to the Trump event. I want to really get the Trump thing knocked off of my psychic to-do list, so I have freedom of association going forward. So yeah, big love and respect, everybody. BRB. Give thanks and praise. So I mentioned the longhouse and the Trump ritual. I'll bring a graphic forward, but the fascinating symbol that keeps turning up on my radar is that he was on the roof. And a really wild echo of the roof, the provocation of the roof is, for one, the glass ceiling of the women's rights movement. It had a great deal to do with the glass ceiling. So there's a bit of an intrinsic trigger to that. But also during the Canary Island eruptions, which were completely predictively programmed into the Eternals film. They were literally shooting on the Canary Islands for the climax of the film and predicting volcanoes going off and heroes coming to the rescue. And sure enough, it was a few months later, not long after, that the Canary Islands were popping off and there were dogs on the roof, trapped on the roof of the Canary Islands. And then they were getting a drone rescue team together. They were going to go save the dogs, and they woke up in the morning and the dogs had already been saved. And there was a sign saying the A-team was here. And with the little therefore triple dots, I think. Something about those dots, we did a weave on it, that it hailed to Zeta Reticuli, the shape of the signature on the red spray painted sign from when the dogs were rescued from the roof. So that really lends to my theory that the dogs are the next target, the next vector. But yeah, very fascinating that those dogs just disappeared and everybody's relieved. Oh, the dogs disappeared. And everybody in the cult world is like, no, those dogs are ritualistically going at a premium because they caught so much of everybody's feels. They become supercharged with the collective attention economy. So yeah, as relieved as I was that the dogs are not going to slowly get cooked on the roof, there's slipping them into oblivion leaves a lot of speculation, just like Where's Waldo right now. So I just wanted to put the dogs on the roof in this longhouse of the it's basically toxic femininity. I mean, if I had to summarize it, we could go on and on. Maybe I'll link to Tsarion. Tsarion did a great episode I watched recently on Otto Wienerman, something like that. I'll link that in the show notes if I can. I highly recommend it. Tsarion handles it so well. It's such a hot button item. Like I'm uncomfortable talking about it. Tsarion nails it. Direct, to the point, concise, and leaving allowance for the exceptions all along the way. It's very difficult to speak firmly and concisely and also leave room for the people that you're not talking about to not broad brush. Tsarion just hits that fine note. And I'll try to link that if I can. So I think a lot of people have seen how the ear castrated event has a strong orientation to the Mike Tyson, to when Mike Tyson bit off Vander Holyfield's ear. And to a large amount, I see very... it seems tentative at first, but I think I can build it into a real firm structure of associations. How the ear castrated event hails to Mike Tyson. And I will start with the fact that this card, the strength card, has always been the Incredible Hulk. Not Hefner. Hugh, Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes is the primordial Incredible Hulk, actually, because he has that isolationist. Uh, 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 he's what is that called? Where he's afraid of the world. Agoraphobic. He's agoraphobic. He would lock himself in his buildings for long periods of time. So Howard Hughes is the original Incredible Hulk, and if you know the Incredible Hulk's bio, it's very, very corresponding. So the Strength card has always been the Incredible Hulk, and embodied in Howard Hughes. And the crazy thing about the associating this to the Incredible Hulk and Howard Hughes is in a zodiac, it's perfect. It's just up in August, where the strength of the sun is, I mean, it's all just obvious AF. But something has happened with this Thoth deck on the Enneagram, because this card, number 11 now, no longer 8 in this deck, it's 11 now. The 11th prime number is number 5. And the number 5 personality type is a tragedian. And so that agoraphobia of Howard Hughes, a lust card. Oh shit, it's a lust card. Am I not wrong to say Howard Hughes and Hugh Hefner? Never would have put that together, but it is a lust card, but it's in the tragedian seat. It's in the greed observer with the shadow of greed. Damn, Hugh Hefner is up in here too. Hugh Hefner's up in here. That just happened for me. Hugh Hefner and Howard Hughes are way closer than just their sound of their name. Man, I mean, think about it. Because the Hulk, he's like living large in his tower, in his ivory tower when he goes in retreat. And he's like kind of pimping up in his bathed out. It's like a Bed Bath and Beyond tower that he lives in the Marvel series. That's okay. That's interesting, but it is fascinating that the agoraphobia of, oh my God, Howard Hughes, the agoraphobia is correspondent to this creative, this observer with a shadow of greed or jealousy. Howard Hughes was powerfully creative. He was pumping out new airplanes all the time, trying to build the biggest, baddest airplane there is. And now all of the Boeings are come crashing down. Also, Mike Tyson, everybody's got a plan. Trust the plan until they get punched in the face, until they get shot in the ear. So now your popcorn is bloody. Also, in Idiocracy, the Donald Trump is a wrestler, or the president is a wrestler who comes out on the stage and starts shooting a machine gun in the air in Idiocracy. And sure enough, Donald Trump gets done and he goes and he does a WWF. I don't even speak that language anymore. The wrestling publicity stunt with the Incredible Hulk. And in that speech, he mentions Hannibal Lecter. The lectern was the podium getting knocked over in the chaos, but Hannibal is the ear nibble that Mike Tyson took an ear nibble out of the other boxer. Oh man, Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield, right? Evander Holyfield. So yeah, the lectern is a very interesting aspect. It is the touchstone, but symbolically, we've been programmed to venerate the lectern as we pay our attention to it. Traditionally, our ancestors have for a very long time. So there's a strong potency to the shape of the lectern, and that is again the Ara Altair constellation. There are two Ara Altairs right here. There's one is facing this way, and the other is facing that way. You could almost say it's like a debate of two lecterns pointing at each other for a scripted performance. Yeah. So yeah. Oh, and then I can't miss the Joe Rogan of Hulk Hogan. The R's also have a H value to them. So Joe Rogan, which I've been telling everybody, is this his studio is this card, But there, the Rogan becomes the Hogan when we realize that the Incredible Hulk was this card all along. All right. So I just needed to thread all those things together because I know that they're running around in what is the collective subconscious. I'm putting my flag in this term. If Carl Jung can give everybody the collective unconscious, he has implied the existence of the anode to the concept. So everybody's running around in the collective unconscious in the realm of dream interpretation. I'm talking about the lived experience of the collective as it does not have the privilege of disbelief. I'm putting my flag in the collective subconscious. That's what I breakdance in all over this channel. It's the collective subconscious. And the collective subconscious has been Hellenized. The Helen's flag is all through this space that I'm talking about. The Hellenization of our psyche is happening in an anamnesis, parallel dimension of the unseen realm. And it is based on the nine. It does have a great deal to do with the canceling of the concept of the zero. The Greeks did not have a zero. And so the collective subconscious is fully aware that the zero is a fugazi and there is something else going on in our mathematical associations that have preeminence to our associative principle, and the linchpin of which is Aristotle's fourth and final cause. More on that to come. That was highfalutin nimbus clouds coming down right there. But yeah, I'm definitely looking at the collective subconscious as a Hellenization of the psyche, regardless of your religion, regardless of whatever you think that your belief gives validity to. There's something else in the sub-programming. The Hellenization of the subconscious. It's something. We're cooking on it. More to come on that soon, for sure. So the last words that old Chumpster said was, yeah, look at the red arrow. Pew! And then he gets the red arrow. But that eros is a very magical word. The sublimating of the death drive has a lot to do with the entropy of eros between Agathon's speech, where he says that love is constantly renewed and prefers the younger people and the softer-hearted, more tender-natured surfaces in the world. Right after he contradicts Phaedrus and says, no, Phaedrus, love is not the oldest God. Love is perpetually the newest God. He's describing the baby Jesus. He's describing the baby Jesus. But that the entropy of eros is what leads to the death drive. And that's the missing spot in the symposium, the gap, the siege perilous, the obsession that death starts to make on a person's life as they get older. It becomes a bit of an obsession. And that healthy staying young is the best way to fight off the death drive. So yeah, between Eros and Freud's death drive, a lot of redemption is found. So yeah, when he mentioned the red arrow, he says, look at the red arrow, and then pew, he gets it. I was like, oh man, he said the magical word, eros, the desires, the tzaides. And then I want to mention Wittgenstein's ladder is a fascinating symbol. Let's see if I can make a Wittgensteinian ladder. Right there. There's your Wittgenstein's ladder. There. There's Wittgenstein's ladder. There it is. There's your Wittgensteinian ladder. There's your embrace. There's your bricks. And also, I think the musical notes of a piano are encoded in between the fingers. But Wittgenstein's ladder is a great thing to know and be aware of. But where's Waldo running around with his ladder all over the place? I'm going to bring a graphic with Wittgenstein has a quote that he's like, where I'm going, I don't need roads. But he's saying, I don't need the ladder because I already have everything with me now. And that might be late Wittgenstein. I think he made the ladder in his early work. His ladder work was in his early mentality. And this quote sounds like it's coming from late Wittgenstein, which is hard to distinguish. I'm not affluent enough to say yet. But Wittgenstein's ladder, and the fact that he says, I don't need it. I got this with what I have now. I'm not going anywhere to find perfection. That sentiment is perfected by the Superman scene when he lands in the bunker and he's got a bunch of loyal cops taking a knee in front of him. That ladder behind him is of redundancy. Clearly, he doesn't need it. And that's anamnesis. It's a contradiction that should get you thinking when you're like, Superman doesn't need a ladder. Why is there a ladder behind him? And you're like, oh, okay. There's a lot of, because that's the Socrates' path to what is beautiful. And Wittgenstein was like, I don't need that ladder. I'm already accessing what is beautiful. Very fascinating. So I talked about the long roof and the snipers on the long roof. Wittgenstein doesn't need the ladder because he's Superman. Very fascinating. And the Superman complex is exactly what gets a dumbass to go up and think he can kill somebody and improve the world. Aerated bag. That was from me listening to my own rambling. It totally dawned on me. The Wittgenstein's air-rated bag was a trigger phrase that actually vilifies him as guilty for the world wars. The Jew of Linz says that Wittgenstein was the reason why Hitler was such an asshole. This is Wittgenstein's face. This is Hitler's face. I think that's Wotan in the middle. And this little bag, it's not a satchel per se, but if this is Wittgenstein, which I'm convinced 1,000 ways that it is, he had his little Taktratus carried around with him all the time, but he also had an air-rated bag. And so that being in his biography, and for his followers, his acolytes to also catch on to the aerated bag, it's kind of got an Orphic aspect because of the vegetarians and the followers, that it's like a secret mystery school of vegetarians, but also the air raids. The air raids are put on his in his karmic checking account in people's opinion of him. I just find it fascinating that he started the air-rated bags, and then his acolytes went on to proliferate the air-rated bags. And I'm sure that was subliminal to tip people into the belief that he had any karmic debt regarding the world wars. And the last thing I want to mention is how the Incredible Hulk had a modulation phrase. This is fascinating. He doesn't necessarily have like a trigger phrase that turns him into the Hulk. It was a modulation phrase to bring him back to center. The sun's getting low, big fella. And then she would stroke his hand. And I just want to mention that that aspect of a tactile association causing the program to kick in. That dynamic of the MK Ultra programming of a modulation phrase was also embodied in Tsarion. They say that the spotted woman, she had a polka dot dress just like Minnie Mouse. She's a spotted woman, and she was spotted to have been on site many times. She was his handler, that she pinched his neck, and he flips the switch, and he thinks he's at the gun range. And he goes and does the thing, and then he doesn't remember doing it because of the flip of the switch that the spotted woman gave to him. So he didn't have a modulation phrase, he had an on switch. But I just wanted to point out that that is what C-3PO has on his neck. When Han Solo is about to go through the asteroid field, C-3PO, the etiquette droid, is like, do you know that the chances of survival are 565,000 to 1? And he's never tell me the odds. And then switch him off. And Lois Lane, the spotted woman, she flips the switch and he turns off. His lights go out. I just find that fascinating because also Sirhan used the same gun that Ronald Reagan, the guy who started the Star Wars, so Hans Sirhan's gun from the Kennedy Jr. assassination, his gun had been registered in Hollywood at the costume booth. Was the same gun that Ronald Reagan used in a movie previously. And I just find that fascinating that we have a chain of custody that goes to the costume department, because I see these cards, the steersman that steers the mass homunculus of the collective. These cards are the costume department, and they just dress up these mantles and recirculate them. And the egregoric value of these images and these codes bring out Hugh Hefner and Howard Hughes. And then we find out how they're not just similar, that they're actually sharing an egregoric mantle. That's kind of a trip. I kind of want to say that it's both. It's the M and the K both, really, because there's the green of the death card, but there's the red of the strength card. There's a part of me that wants to just kind of incorporate the green of the death card to the Hulk Hogan and the hue of Howard Hughes, because this is Mu and this is Kappa. So it's MK Ultra. And this was Dr. Honeydew and this was Beaker. So there's something of a Bruce Banner is the Dr. Honeydew and the Incredible Hulk is Beaker. Okay. I think that's all I got to say. Yeah, I'm looking forward to, I think next week we're going to be on the Interverse channel. I'm going to kind of unravel some of these mysteries that I've been talking about with the Aristotelian fog of unknowing, and not that we should not be associating with the numbers. And there's this new level of nuance that people are looking at our association to what is sensible versus what is intelligible. And it may have a strong correspondence to the McGilchrist split of the left and the right brain. So we're going to parse that out and bring it forward next week with our buddy PK up on the Interverse channel. So I'm looking forward to that. And I might be a little few and far between on my projects here coming forward. I've got a big move. I've got a huge life move coming up. And I'll keep everybody up to date with that. But yeah, I'm setting my horizons out west again. And yeah, I got big plans. My old roots are calling me back, so I'm very excited. And again, I just want to appreciate anybody who has donated to my cause thus far. I really want to, maybe someday I'll print out a list or get everybody's name who has made donations thus far, and mention you by name for your donations, and also anybody who plans on donating in the future. Thank you very much. I appreciate it so much. But yeah, once again, I got that PayPal, y'all. I got the PayPal. All right. Love and respect.